Okay, for my next video, I'm moving to a new location here, kind of out here in the sun. But I wanted to move over here to this location. This is sort of as you enter Dealey Plaza from the Stemmons Freeway. Sorry about that. I'm going to turn my camera around here in a minute and show you everything. But as you enter the plaza, the streets fan out. You got Commerce Street, which fans to the right. That's a one-way going into the plaza, and coming out of the plaza is a street that forms the left side of the fan, and that's Elm Street. And right down the middle is Main Street. So you kind of have three streets. I'm going to show you here. So you see there's three streets all going underneath that bridge. That's the triple underpass. You're going to see there's a train coming right now. That is a busy railway still to this day. It's got two kinds of trains going over. You got the industrial kind of trains, the commercial railroads, and then you have the tram that transports people all around the city of Dallas. So that is a very busy railroad bridge. Stemmons Freeway is on the opposite side of that. It's real close to that. So all these cars that you see feeding into Dealey Plaza here, that's Commerce Street, all right? And I'm turning my around, and then all those cars you see going in the opposite direction there, that's Elm Street. There's the grassy knoll. So I'm about 2 fields of grass away from the grassy knoll here. But these cars are all coming the other direction on Elm, going under the right side of that bridge. The middle portion is a two-way street, and it's Main Street. And it goes right up the middle. And that's where the motorcade was supposed to go. The motorcade was supposed to go straight on Main Street, where these cars are right here, right out through under the overpass and out to the Stemmons Freeway. If that had occurred, we wouldn't be standing here today, probably, most likely. So this is where I'm standing now. I want to talk in this video about all the Secret Service break. Last video about security stripping. So let's talk about the breakdowns. If you're counting so far, we've gone over quite a few already. The flatbed media truck was removed. That was a no-no. The motorcade route was changed at the last minute to include 2 90-degree turns. Well, actually, one of them is 90 and the other is about 120-degree turns. And that's a big no-no. I showed you the route down Main Street with the tall buildings. That's a no-no. The limo stopped, or at least slowed, after the first shot. That's a no-no. The driver, William Greer, is supposed to hit the gas. He didn't do that. Another breakdown is what the agent in the passenger seat did, which is nothing. He was supposed to jump over the seat, get on top of the president. He never moved. The driver of the follow-up car, Sam Kinney, Secret Service agent, according to protocols, if you see something going wrong in the limo in front of you, you're supposed to do what you can with your car to get between that limo and the shooter. Take action. Drive your car up on the curb if you have to. He never moved. He just stopped and waited in line. And then the 7 Secret Service agents in the follow-up car, some of them were riding on running boards, some were inside, never moved except for one. Clint Hill got off his running board ramp to protect Jackie. But everyone else, because someone was on the radio telling them to stand down, they stood down. They just stood there. And like I said, the shooting took 5.7 seconds. So from first shot to fatal shot, there was plenty of time. They were literally parked right on the rear bumper of the limo. There's plenty of time to run in there, run up ahead, and get on top of the president. Of course, if those Lawton and Ripka had been on the running boards, they could have jumped on top of the president too, but they weren't there. So that's another example. And then we start to see in the aftermath folks running around all over the grassy knoll and all over Dealey Plaza, flashing Secret Service badges, claiming to be Secret Service agents, taking people's film, taking their camera footage, questioning people, intimidating witnesses, etc., etc. And we found out in the investigation afterwards that according to the Secret Service's own records, all of their agents were in the motorcade. We talked about the 12 agents. They didn't have any agents on the ground. So either the agents who went out partying the night before lost their badges, somebody picked them up and used them, or somebody was providing fake or fraudulent Secret Service badges and using the Secret Service as cover to thwart the investigation almost immediately from the get-go. Like they knew it was going to happen. They were prepared in advance. We found out years later there was a man who was serving time in a maximum security prison for the murder of a federal judge. And while he was serving time, he confessed to an FBI informant that he had been involved in the JFK assassination, and his role was to he delivered Secret Service badges to the shooters and the spotters. So the shooters and the spotters of the president, the assassins, actually had these Secret Service badges, according to this man. His name is Charles Harrelson. You might know him better as the father of Woody Harrelson, the famous actor. There's a photo, several photos actually, a famous photo of three tramps being led through Dealey Plaza after the assassination. They found him on an abandoned rail car, a boxcar, and they marched him through Dealey Plaza, and one of the men looks very close to, or resembles very closely, Charles Harrelson in those days. And of course he said he was there, and his job was to deliver all these fake badges. That might explain how all these people were crawling around the grassy knoll in Dealey Plaza after the assassination with these badges, claiming to be Secret Service agents, when the Secret Service itself said all their agents were in the motorcade. Harrison died in this maximum security prison, but not after he confessed to this to the FBI informant, and also confessed this to his own son, Woody Harrelson. And of course, he never did, as far as I know, admit or acknowledge that that photo was of him, but Woody believes to this day that that photo of those tramps, one of those is his daddy when he was younger. So we see all these breakdowns and all this intentional, these acts by the Secret Service, extremely suspicious, right? From the security stripping that we talked about in the last video to now what they're doing in the moment of the assassination or the direct aftermath. Then we get into the evidence suppression itself. They had an agent, and this to me smacks of Thomas Shipman 2, the second Thomas Shipman. This is the second Secret Service agent who got wind of this plot and wasn't going to go along with it, and they had to treat him or deal with him like they did Thomas Shipman. If you remember the story of Shipman, he was the real driver they had to eliminate 6 weeks before the assassination, or else none of this would have worked. They replaced him with William Greer, the clusterfuck who did what they wanted. In this case, this guy's name is Richard Douglas Chuck Robertson. And according to a friend of Chuck Robertson, who later just disappeared, and so there's people wanting to know about him, so folks that knew him came out and told what they knew, and one of these guys was a friend of his, said that in the weeks before the assassination, Robertson had confided to him that there was a plot to kill President Kennedy, and he didn't want to go along with it, but that others in the Secret Service were going along with it. And he said that, and according to witnesses, when Robertson disappeared, it all happened after a bunch of phones started ringing in his office on November 22, 1963. It's about the time Kennedy arrived at the airport. And Robertson, according to these witnesses in the offices, said that he jumped up and said, "Well, this is it," and he left the office. Now, they don't know why, because he hasn't talked to them. He hasn't told them what he told his friend. This is just what they're saying to try to explain why he disappeared later. Having trouble here turning my page while I'm holding my camera, but bear with me. Anyway, sorry. In the aftermath of the shooting, a Dallas newsman named Seth Cantor reported that something unusual, quote, something unusual happened on Harwood Street shortly before the turn onto Main Street. So I showed you Main Street back there. The motorcade turned onto Main Street from Harwood, and right before that turn happened, a man jumped in front of Kennedy. This is, of course, Seth Cantor. He was a Dallas reporter at the time. A man jumped in front of Kennedy's car, the limo, on Harwood, shouting, "Stop, I must tell you." This is right after Robertson left his office when the phone started ringing. The man, according to the report, was promptly wrestled to the ground and hustled away. Well, the motorcade proceeds on. The president gets shot. He's taken on to Parkland Hospital. The rest is history. And the Robertson family fully expected their daddy to come home that night, but he didn't. Robertson's wife fully expected her husband to come home that night, but he didn't. And the next night, and the next night, and the next night, and the next week, and the next month, he never came home. And to this day, he's just disappeared in the thin air. There was no news coverage of it. There was no talk of it. They didn't get any notification from the Secret Service. The only thing to indicate that he was still alive, possibly, is that he was still receiving his paychecks through the mail to their address. But they never saw him again. And that was 63. That's been 61 years now. The presumption is he's dead, right? Well, according to Seth Cantor, who was at the hospital, had that famous conversation with Jack Ruby at the hospital afterwards, a nurse whom he witnessed asked a Western Union man about a report that a Secret Service agent had been killed on Harwood Street during the motorcade. And the Western Union man replied saying, yes, that's true. And Seth Cantor heard that. And then even the Warren Commission, in their report, one of the volumes of the Warren report states that, quote, one of the Secret Service men on the field, and they indicate Elman Houston as the field, said it came over the teletype that one of the Secret Service men had been killed. So Thomas Shipman was killed 6 weeks before the assassination, so he couldn't be the driver. Chuck Robertson was killed on the day of and disappeared. Has never been seen since. The only word they got from the Secret Service was his family continued to receive his paychecks. But there's been nothing official. You can't find any news about either one of the guys. Shipman disappeared, died, told the family, quick burial, no toxicology, no autopsy, told the family died of heart attack, no news coverage. It's like it never happened. Same thing with Chuck Robertson. He left the office. The only way we know about this is because his friend told of that conversation about this plot that he knew about. He wasn't going to be a part of it. And then the folks who worked with him in his office said he jumped up when the phone started ringing. He said, well, this is it. And next thing you know, according to Seth Cantor, somebody approached the president's car on Harwood Street and they hauled him away, and later reported that it was a Secret Service agent who did it on Harwood, and he was killed. And there were several corroborations of that he was killed, including the Western Union man who told the nurse. So the assumption is, since no other Secret Service agent died that day or disappeared that day, it had to be Chuck Robertson. And it's interesting that the two Secret Service agents who had prior knowledge of the plot both were killed. They were patsies in this whole plot too. They had to be eliminated. They were loose ends, and they're both Secret Service agents. This is why I say there's strong evidence, at least I believe there is, that the Secret Service was involved in this plot. And if you're involved in this plot, you have to take care of loose ends just like anybody else who's involved in the plot has to. You got to take care of your own, right? Dead men tell no tales. Then we get the story of Thomas Kelly. Thomas Kelly is the inspector that was sent from Washington to handle all of the loose ends in Washington that were emerging in the aftermath, in the cluster of this aftermath. He works for the Secret Service. He later became the liaison from the Secret Service to the Warren Commission. He's the one that had to explain to the Warren Commission that they had destroyed all their records. There was no record for the Warren Commission to investigate any involvement of the Secret Service with respect to the JFK assassination, because the Secret Service destroyed all their records. Another part of destruction of evidence. But before that, when he got to Dallas, he ordered his enforcer, Elmer Moore, to seize all the photographic and film footage of all the people, all the witnesses in Dealey Plaza, on the grassy knoll, anywhere. And they went around and see. Now they didn't get it all. Famously, they missed Abraham Zapruder, but they got most of it. And of course, they promised everybody they'd give it back. Nobody ever got it back. This was news organizations, spectators, witnesses, anybody. They also, at Parkland Hospital, scrubbed the limo, cleaned it, put it on a plane, sent it to Dearborn, Michigan to be rebuilt. This is a rolling crime scene. Should have had yellow tape around it. People out there studying it, forensics, whatever. Nope. It was cleaned. They brought sponges and a bucket of warm, soapy water out. They cleaned it. It was a bloody mess, and sent it off to be rebuilt. That's destruction of evidence. They disposed of JFK and Connolly's clothing. You know, the shirt that JFK was wearing would have gone a long way to determining where that bullet hit him in the back, right? There would have been a bullet hole there. They got rid of that so that they could later move the bullet hole up 6 inches to show that it hit him in the back of the neck instead of the flush in the back, so it could come out the front of the neck, right? But you got to get rid of the shirt when you're, otherwise it's going to hurt the narrative that they're trying to create. Then they stole the president's body, sent it off to DC for a rigged autopsy. So you start looking at the fact that they stripped away his security, and then they destroyed all this evidence, and they suppressed evidence. They even killed 2 of their own. It's pretty clear the Secret Service was heavily involved in everything that happened here in Dallas. Thank you.